Hello everybody, what is going on? It is Voodoo here, and welcome to a special mini edition of Voodoo's Verdict. Where today I'm going to be taking a look at a DLC for the first time ever on this channel. And it's a mini Voodoo's Verdict because obviously it's a shorter thing we'll be talking about in a DLC. And I'm not going to be giving the game any kind of a score or rating, because obviously it's not the same as a full game, so there's no need to give it a rating. I'm just going to tell you what I think of the DLC, if it's a good deal based on the price of the DLC and the content you get, and who would and wouldn't be interested most likely in buying this DLC. So the DLC we're talking about today is Episode 1 of the Burial at Sea DLC, which is for the game Bioshock Infinite. Right off the bat, this DLC does cost $15 on its own, as will Part 2, to be released later, will also cost $15 on its own. But if you buy the Season Pass for Bioshock Infinite, you get both DLCs for $20, plus an additional DLC called Clash in the Clouds that I tried out earlier this year. I had my problems with it, but you do get it thrown in as a bonus. So for 20 bucks, you get 3 DLCs, or you can buy the 2 Burial at Sea separately for $30. So obviously, if you're interested in the DLC, you should just get the Season Pass, because it's an insane value compared to buying the DLC separately. So let's talk about the Burial at Sea DLC, Episode 1, a little bit. It takes place in Rapture, which of course is the utopian underwater city which served as the setting for the original Bioshock and Bioshock 2. However, this DLC occurs at a time before the Civil War, before Rapture was thrown into chaos and was basically destroyed. The game actually takes place on New Year's Eve of 1958, which is the day before the initial attack that started the whole Rapture Civil War, when the Kashmir restaurant was attacked. That's where this DLC takes place. You play as Booker DeWitt once again, and you are serving in the same kind of role as you did in Columbia. You're a private detective. And the DLC begins with a visit from a very friendly and familiar character, Elizabeth, who comes in, and basically the gist of it is, it's not much spoiler because they've already released this kind of stuff in the trailer. She needs your help in finding a little girl that was lost in Rapture. And that's what the basis of this DLC is about. And it's very similar. It plays very similar to Bioshock Infinite, to Bioshock. I mean, this DLC is made on the Bioshock Infinite engine. So, like most Bioshocks, you'll have many open world areas that you can go through and explore. As you walk through, you'll find audio logs. There's 17 of them in total in Episode 1 of this DLC. So you'll find them scattered around. You'll find safes that Elizabeth can again open through lockpicking. And you need to find lockpicks as you walk around in order to have her do that. You will find infusions, which are again the upgrades in the game, and you'll have your normal array of weapons. Definitely not all of the weapons you had in Bioshock Infinite, but you'll have a few of them. You'll find like the shotgun, the carbine, the hand cannon, that kind of thing. One change from Bioshock Infinite is that the weapon wheel makes a return. So in Bioshock Infinite, you could only carry 2 guns at a time. In this DLC, the weapon wheel is back from the first 2 Bioshocks, meaning you can keep all the weapons you find. You're not limited to just 2, which is pretty nice. So you'll have those. You'll have, of course, they're plasmids now again, because we're back in Rapture, but they're the same vigors that you had from Bioshock Infinite. You start out with, I think, Possession and Devil's Kiss. And as you go through, you'll find Shock Jockey and Bucking Bronco. There's a new plasmid in the game called Old Man Winter, which is like Winter Blast from the original Bioshocks. It's a freezing plasmid. And it works the same way. You'll find Eve, which is, helps you use your plasmids. Just very similar to Bioshock Infinite. It's based on the same thing. Combat, very similar. They did seem to tweak the combat to where you take a lot more damage now than you did in Bioshock Infinite, and you don't have as much ammo. But I guess to offset that, that's why they let you keep all the guns you find, so that you won't have a lot of ammo in each individual gun, but combined across all your guns, you should have enough ammo to take out, the enemies and, and survive. But it's a lot harder, even on medium difficulty, which I played it on. It's a lot harder than the normal difficulty of Bioshock Infinite. It's a lot tougher, so keep that in mind. Elizabeth can again open tears for you. You'll find the equivalent of the skyhook so that you can ride on, in this game they're the Pneumo lines, the mail service. You can ride along the lines, but it's the same concept as the Skylines from Bioshock Infinite, and all that's very, very similar. So the story is interesting. It has, once again, a really crazy kind of twist ending. It's not that much of a twist, I guess. If you've played Bioshock Infinite, you already kind of understand some things that are going on. But it's kind of a crazy ending to the DLC. It's a cliffhanger, obviously leading into Episode 2 to be released later. And that's kind of the deal. So, really, what do I think about this DLC? Well, as you know, if you've been following my channel, if you haven't been and you're just watching this review, I was extremely excited about this DLC. Bioshock 1 is my favorite game of all time. Bioshock Infinite, I would have to say, is probably my second favorite game of all time. I love the universes of those two games. I loved everything about Rapture in Bioshock 1. I absolutely loved it. So when I learned that we were going back to Rapture before it went into Chaos, and we were going to be able to see it in its prime, I was just super excited for it, and I couldn't wait for this DLC. We had to wait months and months and months for this DLC to come out. Keep in mind, Infinite came out, I think it was March or April of this year. It's now November, and this thing is finally out. Waiting for it for a long time. So I had a lot of anticipation, and to be perfectly honest with everybody, unfortunately, I came up disappointed. And there's a few reasons. Number one, the DLC is extremely short. The DLC is about 3 to 4 hours long, and that is with taking your time, with searching everything, which I did. I searched as much as I could. I took my time, and the DLC was still only 3 to 4 hours. I had 13 parts of it, which is not very much, and that's really disappointing, especially if you're saying it's worth $15 for that short of a DLC. I don't really think it's worth it, considering it's also, you didn't really change much. It's kind of the same exact thing, the same combat and all that from Bioshock Infinite. And I really thought that this DLC was going to be like a whole immersion into pre-dysfunctional Rapture. This was going to be an immersion in utopian Rapture, and you're going to be able to see everything as it was. And the beginning of the DLC starts off that way. For the first third of the DLC, you're in Rapture, you're walking around, it's amazing, you know, everything is alive and colorful. You even run into a couple of familiar faces from Bioshock 1 that you'll definitely remember. You know, you're finding the audio logs, and it's tying in with the story of Bioshock Infinite. It's really cool. But then once you actually get into the DLC, into the meat of it, where you'll be doing your combat and really, you know, progressing the story, you kind of lose that, because you're shipped basically to a different area, like a whole area kind of separated from Rapture, and you're in this confine the whole time, and it basically turns back into dysfunctional Rapture. I mean, I was expecting, okay, this is the eve of the attack, we might be able to actually experience the attack on the Kashmir restaurant as it happened, be a part of that, be a part of the civil war that started, you know, see how everything kind of happened and all that, and you don't. It never happens, and really, the meat of the DLC is played, like I said, in a separate area that's just like dysfunctional Rapture, except it doesn't even, for the most part, it doesn't even really feel like Rapture anymore. Obviously, there are some throwbacks. You've got, you know, Circus of Values and your gene bank and all that other kind of stuff, but in the end, this DLC really didn't feel like I was in Rapture after the first third of the game, and it was a massive disappointment, because I really thought that this was going to be an amazing experience and indulging in what Rapture was before it went to Chaos, and that's not what this DLC turned out to be. Also, a thing that really annoyed me is that generally, and even in this DLC, when you're progressing to different areas, the game will let you know. The game will warn you and say, you know, you're about to leave this area permanently. Do you want to leave, or do you want to stay and explore a little bit to find all the hidden items and stuff in this level? Well, I kind of was going on that premises in the last area of the game. I didn't realize it was the last area of the game, because again, it was extremely short. I was thinking it was going to be much longer, but there was a couple things I hadn't found. There was there was a gun that was hidden, the new gun in the DLC that was hidden, and it was behind a door that I needed a code to, and I had looked around and explored, but I hadn't found this code yet. And I had in my mind, I said, okay, well, you know, maybe I haven't hit it yet. Maybe I have to progress the story a little bit, unlock some new areas. Maybe the code will be in there. And I also was missing 2 audio logs that I needed to get for an achievement to get all the audio logs. So that's what I did. I progressed the story a little bit, and as soon as I did that, the DLC didn't give me any warning, and it just played the ending, and that was it. I was done. I couldn't go back. So I never even got to use the new weapon that was in the DLC. It also was kind of weird because they didn't give you the new weapon until the last level of the DLC, which makes no sense. The idea of the weapon was cool from what I learned from it. It's supposed to be like a thing that shoots microwaves or radio waves and burns enemies and stuff like that. It seemed really cool. They didn't give it to you till the last level of the game, and then because I hadn't found the code, and I thought that at least if I was about to progress out of that level, the game would warn me, and I could say, okay, no, I don't want to leave yet, I want to stay, and then I would know, okay, I must have just missed the code. But because the game never told me, I accidentally finished the game and never got to use the gun. So, unfortunately, it was really disappointing to me. Now, who would I recommend this DLC to? Who wouldn't I? I wouldn't recommend this DLC to anybody who did not play the original Bioshocks. If you only played Bioshock Infinite, there is no reason for you to buy this DLC. Mainly, this DLC I feel is fan service to those who did play the original Bioshocks and want to go back and experience Rapture. As I said, the gameplay is basically the exact same of Bioshock Infinite. It's a very short DLC, so if you're someone who just played Infinite and you're looking for something extra to add something to it, I wouldn't recommend this DLC, okay? Now, those I would recommend it to would probably still be people like myself who are big fans of the original Bioshock, want to go back and experience, liked both games, and want to have a new experience, but I certainly would never recommend anybody pay $15 individually for this DLC. It's not worth it. Apparently Ken Levine, talking about the length of the DLC, said that he wanted quality over quantity. Unfortunately, in my opinion, I don't feel that the quality of this DLC lives up to the quantity. I don't feel that the quality is good enough to justify it only being 3 or 4 hours long. I really don't feel it's that good. It's not that new, and again, considering that a large portion of it, you don't even really feel like you're in still a utopian Rapture, I don't think it's worth the money. Now, if you would buy the DLC for $20, I think it's worth it. I think if you're a fan of the original Bioshock, you liked Bioshock Infinite, it's worth the $20 season pass to get both episodes, because the second episode, who knows, may be much better. We don't know. I still think it's worth it, at least if for nothing else, the first third of the game. The first third of the game for me was amazing. Walking around exploring Rapture as it was, that to me was great. I mean, even if for that, and the story does look like it's going to be interesting, it's going to be kind of crazy to see how it progresses in part 2. So I think for the season pass for $20 to get both and Clash in the Clouds, if you're a big fan of Rapture and Bioshock, I think it's worth it. If you're not that big of a fan of Bioshock, like you just kind of like the game, you know, you're not like really into it or whatever, it's probably a skip for me. I really was disappointed with this DLC, and it's unfortunate because we waited so long. There was a lot of hype. The trailers looked amazing. Unfortunately, like most things, the trailer is the best parts of the DLC. If you've seen the trailer, you've seen, or that thing that they released, the first 10 minutes of gameplay, you've seen the best part of Bioshock Infinite Burial at Sea Episode 1. The rest of it, in my opinion, is bland. It's not really worth it, and it's just incredibly too short. It's way too short for a $15 DLC. But that's my reaction, that's my view on it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will be uploading my full direct capture playthrough of the DLC, all 13 parts, here on my channel. So if you're interested, if you heard this DLC and you don't think that, you know, you're like, okay, well maybe I won't buy it now because it doesn't sound like it's for me, but you still want to kind of see it and maybe watch a playthrough of it for free, you can watch it right here on my channel and save yourself the money and at least still be able to see what the DLC is and what it's like. So that's my honest reactions. I will be playing episode 2 when it comes out because I did get the season pass, and I'll be doing a video just like this for episode 2. So thanks for watching, and I hope it was helpful, and I'll see you guys next time.